This is Bethel Presbyterian Church, Clover, South Carolina. It's a church that has a long history in American colonial life, and also in my family's life. As we're going to see, we're going to take a little bit of a brief tour here on this cold 1st of February 2008, Friday morning, or Friday afternoon now, and I'm going to show you where some of my ancestors were buried, and we're just going to have a little bit of a delving into the history of the Bigger family, and I think we'll have a good time. Follow me on a tour of Bethel Presbyterian Church in beautiful Clover, South Carolina. You'll see a very beautiful Bigger tombstone dead ahead. We'll get as much footage as we can before someone comes running out and says, "What are you people doing?"
True.
It'd be embarrassing to get all the way down here and then not be able to find again the site. Hey, this is the tombstone marker of, I believe, my first cousin, twice removed, Dr. David Andrew Bigger, who was quite a genealogy buff, and he is the one who's responsible for a lot of the information that I have been able to find out about the Bigger family. He spent a lot of time looking for relatives and asking questions, and he wrote a book, which is, we have a copy in the North Carolina room at the Gaston County Public Library. It's about the new acquisition, which I think this area was back many years ago, but he was a physician in Rock Hill, South Carolina. A very wonderful man. He was the son of Dr. Isaac Alexander Bigger Sr. and Mary Neal Johnson Bigger, born October 1st, 1891, and died February 20th, 1951. If I can read this: physician, historian, friend, his life was a victorious quest for the beautiful in nature, glorious in the past, and the noble in his fellow man. And his wife was Hazel Mott Bigger, October 29, 1896 till March 26, 1959. And Dr. Bigger is the one who is responsible for the beautiful Glencairn Garden in Rock Hill. I think someone gave him some azaleas as a Christmas present, as I understand, and he planted them, and it just sort of became an obsession or a compulsion with him, a hobby, and he went on to develop one of the most beautiful and scenic tourist attractions in the whole South, Glencairn Gardens in Rock Hill, South Carolina. If you want to come around here, it'd be good if we could get the other side of this beautiful stone. It has got the Bigger family coat of arms on it, I believe. Or maybe this is not the one that's got that on. It's over there. But this is a Bigger tombstone here. And I'll step over here. And if you want to get a good close shot of the Bigger coat of arms from, I think, Scotland or Ireland, probably Scotland. It's giving and forgiving. I think that's a beautiful stone there. We have some other Biggers buried down here. I'm not sure right offhand where my third great-grandfather, Matthew Bigger, is buried, but I'll tell you a little bit about him. He was a son of James Bigger, my fourth great-grandfather, and Matthew Bigger married Erixene Adams Barnett, and she died at an early age, and Matthew Bigger was harvesting wheat on, I believe, the 30th of June, somewhere thereabouts, in 1827, and he went swimming about midday and took cramps and drowned. And he met a very tragic death at age 38. And one of the children that he left orphaned was my great-great-grandfather, Moses Andrew Bigger.
What river did he drown in?
He drowned in the Catawba River around Huddleston Island. And we can step over here. We'll see. I believe this is Andrews over here. I believe it looks like it from a distance. Come on out, son. We need some sunshine. We need a little bit of warmth. No, I don't think this is it, but it's around here, and we will find it. We found it last week. Let's see, so when we get to it, I want to tell you a little bit about Moses Andrew Bigger. Let's see here. I recognize a lot of the names on these tombstones as being related to me. Let's see. Adams, I'm related to the Adams. In fact, let me mention this. Matthew Bigger's wife, Erixene Adams Barnett, was the granddaughter of William Adams, who was one of the patriots who fought at the Battle of Kings Mountain. So I had I think a fifth great-grandfather, William Adams, at the Battle of Kings Mountain, in addition to, on my mother's side, my fourth great-grandfather, Hoffman, is John Hoffman. He was known as Rich John, and his brother Jacob Hoffman. They were at the Battle of Kings Mountain. But we're going to find Moses Andrews' tombstone. As I said, it seems like it's right around here somewhere. I can see it in my mind, but it's just a matter of getting to where we can see it here. Yeah, I'm going to go over here. Stone of my great-great-grandfather, Moses Andrew Bigger. I think he was known as M.A. Bigger or Andrew Bigger. And maybe we can come around here and get the tombstone of my great-great-grandfather to Dr. David Bigger. I know that he stood 6 feet tall, weighed around 180 pounds, said he was very handsome, auburn hair. In a day of heavy drinking, he handled liquor in moderation. He was an expert horseman and rode a horse as though it were part of him. He was a fox hunter. And he and his brother, Alexander Barnett Bigger, were members of the 1st South Carolina Volunteer Cavalry in the Civil War. And I believe they rode with Jeb Stuart and Wade Hampton and Robin Jones and various other generals and leaders in the Civil War. One experience that I will relate about Andrew, when he was in the Civil War, he was foraging for food in Virginia, and someone came in and yelled that the Yankees were coming, or there were some Yankees on the way, and he fought them off as best he could. There were several Yankees, and one of them, there were 5 men who helped him, including a man named Robert Steele, who was from Rock Hill, and he helped my great-great-grandfather fight them off. In fact, one of the Yankees, I believe, ended up getting a sword like that all the way down through his head, and Andrew managed to get away from his attackers, and he ran and jumped a fence, jumped on a horse, and put as much distance as he could between himself and his attackers. And Andrew bore the scars of that encounter for the rest of his life. I think he had scars on his neck and scars on his hands, on his wrists, where he was fighting off the attacking Union soldiers. But he lived surprisingly long for Bigger. He died, I think, of pneumonia. It says M.A. Bigger, September 26, 1825 through February 18, 1906. He died at age 80, 80 years, 4 months, and 22 days. And according to David Bigger, he kept Bachelor Hall at the home of Dr. Tom Campbell. And Andrew married Helen Marr Campbell, and Helen M. Bigger here. She was the wife of Moses Andrew Bigger. She died September 8th of 1879, leaving him a widower at a pretty young age. And she was aged 45 years and 14 days. But they were married, and this would have been my great-great-grandmother. And I think they were very, very exceptional people. So, might look around and see if we're able to locate the tomb. Now, that sun feels good. We finally got some sunshine coming down. I'm going to sing a little song in just a little bit at this tombstone, if I can remember where I left my guitar. But, right here, Isaac Alexander Bigger, medical doctor. He was the son of Moses Andrew and Helen Campbell Bigger. Where have you heard those names before? He was born May 9th of 1867 in Bethel. He died May 6th, 1926 in Rock Hill. Practiced his profession 37 years. He was a good citizen, a man charitable in thought, word, and deed, loyal friend, and beloved physician, one of nature and nobleman. And his wife was Anne Claire Hutchison. Now, Isaac Bigger Sr. was a great believer that you gave to the community. And I think that he was, a lot of times, was quite reluctant to charge for his medical services. And he imparted that to his sons David Bigger and his son Isaac Alexander Bigger Jr. And Isaac Jr. was known as Ike. And he went on to become, I believe, one of the youngest professors of surgery in the United States. He went on to Richmond, Virginia, to the Medical College of Virginia, and was one of the greatest surgeons anywhere, and I think he even was responsible for some innovations in a lot of surgical techniques and so forth. But he was a very, very, very beloved physician, surgeon, and teacher. One of his greatest joys was teaching. And I read in a speech about Ike Bigger that he was not at his happiest when he was in the operating room, because he was such a perfectionist that he just couldn't stand the thought of failure. He loved treating people and making them making them feel better, making them well. And I think many a night he kept bedside vigils beside his patients. And one story that was shared after he died by the great columnist James Kilpatrick said that there was a man he operated on. He did a very tedious and a very difficult cancer operation on a man, and the man didn't have a lot of money. When he received his bill from Dr. Bigger, the bill was for $10. And I think that he was a little bit controversial in his day, because a lot of the other surgeons complained about the unusually low rates that Dr. Ike charged for his services. But I think that it showed the wisdom, that the love and the compassion that this man learned. And I'll tell you a little something more about Andrew Bigger. You know, he had been orphaned at age 2, and he went to live with his grandparents, Alexander Barnett and Rachel Barnett. And I think there was something that happened. I don't know if it was a falling out or a disagreement or something, but he left their home and he moved in to the home of his uncle James Bigger, who was a wealthy bachelor. And James had moved into a house with his sister, Betsy Patterson. And her husband and children had died, so she moved in with her brother James, and I think they built a different home, and and lived there. And she was a very, very fine Christian lady, and she brought Moses Andrew Bigger up to be very honest and conscientious, and just a wonderful lady. The tombstone father and Bigger, to the memory, if I can read it, to the memory of James Bigger, who departed this life in 1800. He was 39 years old, and it's a little bit difficult to read, but he fought in the American Revolution at age 15. And a little irony here, I have a good friend named William Sumter Henry, who's a YMCA buddy of mine. But Bill is a direct descendant of General Thomas Sumter, and James Bigger fought under Thomas Sumter. So I thought that was kind of interesting, that two men who were direct descendants of men who fought for our freedom from the British during the American Revolution. But I think he was a fine, fine man. Now I gotta tell you about his wife. Let's see. That's Ann Bigger there. Over here. Let's see. Where is Eda Bigger? I'll tell you, Eda's tombstone, but I may not be able to read it because it's very, very, some of them are very faded and difficult to read. But I want to tell you a little story. She was the daughter, I'm talking about my fourth great grandmother. She was the daughter of Matthew Bigger. And to give you some idea of how both men and women were heroes and heroines during the American Revolution, the fight for our independence, one day the Tories came by the Matthew Wilson house and took Matthew Wilson out, and they were going to hang him. And he was sick, and the children of Matthew Wilson pleaded for his life. They went ahead and spared Matthew's life, but they stole their horses, and they went on down the road to, I believe, the home of a man named Daniel Whitener and demanded their dinner. And while they were in the house eating, my fourth great grandmother, Edith Wilson, went down and she unharnessed the horses. She found her own favorite pony. She got on it. She gave a whistle. The horses scattered. The ones that belonged to her family followed her back to the Matthew Wilson home. So that seems like that was a pretty little courageous thing for a young. She was about, I think, early teenager when she did that. So that shows that both men and women, and very proudly, my fourth great grandmother participated in an act of heroism during the American Revolution. Let me.
All right, Bobby.
Okay. I wish I could find the tombstone of my third great grandfather, Matthew Bigger. I found it before, but it doesn't seem like I'm going to be able to find it again today. These are kind of difficult to locate, some of them are. But I do want to mention my great-great uncle, Alexander Barnett Bigger, who served in the cavalry with my great-great-grandfather. He died of disease in Virginia, and he's buried up there, but there is a beautiful marker to him here that says, if I remember correctly, though his remains rest in a far-off state, this monument of love stands as a, we, by his children, erected a monument of love here in Bethel, where he grew up and lived for so many years. But basically that's it. And one thing that I'd like to do, I'm going to go step over here and get my guitar. And I'm going to sing a little bit of my favorite song around the... And I believe the cold has... How's that sound? Might be a little bit out because of the cold and the wind. But my favorite song of all time is an old song called Will the Circle Be Unbroken? And I firmly believe that one day, even though I have never had the opportunity to meet any of the bigger ancestors, that I will meet them and spend a lot of time with them, maybe an eternity with them, in the circle. I was standing by my window on a cold and dreary day when I saw that birds come rolling for to carry my mother away. Will the circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by? There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Well, I told that undertaker, please drive slow. For that lady you are hauling, Lord, I hate to see her go. But will the circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by? There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky, in the sky, Lord, in the sky. And I'll see them all one of these days.